I'm going to have to go ahead and see there is another free support from the hotel room. So I'm going to kick this off again. Let me know. I'll make sure you guys can hear me before. Between the phone on my computer. Let me know if you can. Hey, there we go. Let me go ahead. How about now? Worse, better, worse. 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you guys hear me? Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me again? Let's switch over. Better. Any better, any better. Going once, going twice. It's only the best of time around here for me. I tell you what, guys. Better? We good, Dylan? Waiting. There's a delay in the system. Way better? All right, cool. I think I'm going to try one more thing here real quick. And then with that, let me see if we can get my filters turned back on just so that there is a noise gate. Am I cutting out? Am I good? Sounds good? Louder? Softer? Ready to kick this off? I'll give you guys a second in chat. I assume I'm good. It looks like I'm good on my computer screen over here. So with that, as you guys know, it's nothing but the best over here at JIT CAD CAM as we're sitting in the lovely Florida area right now, getting ready for a training next week with one of our customers. But as I promised last week, we are, of course, going to do a free support Friday live from the hotel room. I am none other than Fusion Phil over here at JIT CAD CAM. If you're new to my channel, checking out this stream for the very first time, at any time, if you do have questions, want some answers, or even looking at this at a later date, you can leave a comment on the video, you can use the live chat, or you could send us an email using the email links down below. So I see Stuart out there, I see the Ninja, Dylan's here. Dylan, are you going to swap out your YouTube channel like you do every other time on us? Scrolling up a little bit. Nepster, I see you guys. Great to see you guys in chat. Again, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. If you guys have any questions at any time, feel free to throw them in chat. I have no idea how long we're going to go this week, but we're going to do our best considering with the situation. So let me go ahead and get my screen share pulled up here. Again, as I pointed out, I am here to focus before the Too Tall Toby finals. When does that kick off, Ace? Is that kicking off at the top of the hour? Go ahead and let me know. In the meantime, Stuart sent me in a part, and his request on this part was we're going to skip over his first sentence here because I don't think you guys need to know that, but tidy up this 3D undercut I'm doing with the radius. Well, Stuart, can you go ahead and throw in chat to make sure? Let's see here. Woodruff style tool. I think I did under there, but I ain't used ramp. Okay. What setup is it in particular that you're working with? I do have to jump back over to my screen in 40 minutes. Awesome, Ace. We're going to have to jump over there and make sure we catch this live, of course. So there's the limit. We're going to go ahead and cut this off about 5 minutes before the top of the hour. I know there was some conversation about using ramp. I think I'm on the right setup. Woodruff with ramp. You have that labeled in here any good way, or am I on the right? Oh, this one. Of course, see? Answer my own questions when I look at it. So we have this setup. We're looking at a couple different tool paths here. It looks like he's doing some contour there on the inside. Awesome. Do you not have Stuart, do you not have the machining extension? You could easily deburr that hole with if you had the machining extension. But either way, we're going to get back to this. So I'm going to go ahead and unsuppress this. Now, I believe some of the problems that you're having right off the rip, Stuart, is you're trying to undercut, if I remember. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and do a inspection accessibility analysis. Now, what this will tell me is whether or not there is undercuts on your part. So for those of you that don't know right now, is based on this flat surface, anything in red is considered undercut, which means the tool needs to get underneath that profile. Again, if I was unsure about the top being flat, considering his Z-axis is that direction, I could go off the bottom of his part, and then I can flip to direction number 2, giving me the same results. Now, if you guys didn't know, you could also leave this on if you wanted to and toggle that on and off over here in your design tree at any time. So let's get into his toolpath. So I'm going to go to his ramp, and with that, we're not utilizing any type of multi-axis. So we're going to skip over this, and we're looking at his geometry. Now, he does have his tool outside of his boundary. Everything looks good there. However, his big problem is the fact that when using ramp, you cannot utilize undercuts with ramp unless, and I say this, unless you're using steep and shallow. And I'm going to show you guys the outcome difference between this. So what I'm going to do is steal his information. Now, there is a couple of things here. Is one, contour will allow for undercutting. So we're going to grab that to start with. And then I'm also going to go ahead and do my derive into a steep and shallow toolpath. Now, a couple of tricks here most people don't know is I actually want to go steep only. And as you're going to see, I now get the ability to machine undercuts and do a spiral, which if you all, again, didn't know this, is spiral is the ability to basically turn this from contour into ramp, right? So again, this is why I love the steep and shallow toolpath. I highly recommend it to you guys out there. It's because we have that ability to utilize either a contour slash ramp, or if we were doing both, right? So again, we'll go steep and shallow, a scallop and parallel. So again, applications here, we're just going to force steep only. We're going to go ahead and allow undercuts, and we're going to leave everything else about the same. I might have to come back and check. But what we would see on this part, I am going to have to do a few other things here. Let's see what else you got going on. We're going to unsuppress that so we can get our material through here. And it looks like you approached this with quite a few different tool paths, which is going to make it pretty easy on me to delete and remove those and then just get us a material. So again, if you out there are utilizing a Windows machine, I'm using the hotkey F8 to turn on and turn off my stock. And you could also do that down below in your toolbar by just checking that little pyramid and toggling it on and off. So as you guys are seeing here, here is this ramp toolpath. We're going to go ahead and simulate this and see what we come up with. Again, I like to use comparison. Now there is a couple of little bugs here, so you guys know, is if you're using comparison, there is a delay when utilizing fast GPU, but the delay is nothing in comparison to everything else out there. So again, we're going to go ahead and hit the play key. I'm actually going to go ahead and pause here real quick. And we are just going to do my favorite thing, which is let's go to the end of the toolpath and see what our results come out as. So we'll give this a few seconds to calculate. Now, presumably, we still have blue material here, which makes me think that you could have stock to leave turned on. So I may need to go ahead and exit this simulation. Let's just double verify that. No stock to leave. Okay. Now, again, we're seeing material still left on the walls here where I'm going to step into contour and do the same thing and simulate. I may have to go back and actually use a more traditional simulation here, but let's see what we get at the end of the day once this calculates out. So again, we're going to give that a moment. It looks like my material is just not calculating. Again, if we go ahead and switch from comparison back to material, we can again go ahead and generate that simulation very quickly and see if we're actually undercutting on that part. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do another trick here, which is going to be, say, all of toolpath. And then I can more or less jump to a specific point somewhere throughout this part. So now what I'm looking for is to see if that tool is actually getting underneath and touching my material. Now, it does not seem to be, which I have some ideas here, which is going to always be interesting, as you guys know. Let's go back to his toolpath in itself. Again, we have, what all do we have turned on? We don't need model, I'm pretty sure. Unless, I should have checked this first. I'm pretty legendary about this move, is there's multiple models in here, and I'm curious what he's trying to do. Let's just make sure we're working with one body. We are. Let's go to our setup, of course. Are we working with the correct body? We are. Pro tip for you guys out there, I highly recommend, instead of selecting a body, always try to use components. It's going to be much better on you at the end of the day. For this use case, I'm not going to mess with it in the setup. We're going to come back to it. So again, I'm going to go ahead and jump back over to my toolpath now. Let's go ahead and make sure he has that model turned off as we were talking about. We do have contact point boundary turned on, contact only. This is where I would start turning off quite a bit of stuff. And then another pro tip out here, if you guys didn't know, if you do selection and don't select anything, you can also get a pretty good toolpath. So what I'm really looking for is to just get something on the part to very well start with. So discarded unreachable passes. So let's go ahead and do that one more time. We're going to jump over to the contour instead. We're going to say selection. Let's get some stuff turned off. And that's going to be tool outside of boundary. And again, let's see if we can get a toolpath on the part before we start messing around too much. So again, they may have fixed it. You used to be able to shortcut this. So let's go back to silhouette, tool outside of boundary, and see what we get. I see some more questions coming up in chat. Napster, I see you out there. I will check into ticket 811 here in a minute to see what is going on with it. And this is one of my favorite things, is you're seeing what could be considered the master. I don't know if I'm the master. You guys tell me. Is when you get to changing too many things, sometimes you cause your own demise. So again, I'm going to go in and let's say contact only and see if we still get a toolpath or if we don't. So I think at this point, between recycling a toolpath as well, trying to force something after the fact, I'm going to do what I do best, which is let's go back up there to 3D contour, and let's start with the when in doubt, okay your way out kind of move. We get no passes to link, which would lead me to think that there's something with geometry. Again, we need that tool all the way to the outside of the boundary. And what we're really looking for is to get a toolpath. So again, discarded unreachable passes. Let me know in chat real quick, Stuart, was this something you were fighting on your side as well? I'll go ahead and give you a minute to jump over. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and grab that other ticket information. So wait for me here in a sec, guys. I'll jump right back here. Got to get this part file downloaded. And let's take a look here. Custom tool made for it, but don't know it plunged in the part. Okay, let me go ahead and see if I can get this downloaded, and I'm going to take a screenshot. Okay, so you're using more of a dovetail cutter for that. So give me one sec here, guys. Let's get this uploaded. You're going to see all of my downloaded files that don't really exist. All right, let's get back over here. Using my tablet as a second screen right here. So again, something is happening with this part where it does not want to machine it. And we're gonna do a few things here. We're gonna go ahead and go for bounding box. And again, the goal is to get a toolpath on the part. And as you're seeing, even the best of us have problems from time to time. So again, it could be, as he had, tool center, additional offset, 1, and let's see what we get. So I'm thinking that either my Fusion is bugged out, or you guys are probably thinking I'm wild here, but what I want you to see is, if you notice right now, and it might be tricky on your screen, again, this is why I like the steep and shallow toolpath, is the steep and shallow that I generated, you notice there's a taper here and all those little blue lines. It's a little tricky to see if we spin our part around and look at it. However, if we were to simulate this, we're going to notice that, again, when we machine this part, and we're just going to go ahead and jump down, and then I am going to do, like I said before, we're going to go back to comparison and cause our own problems, if you guys can imagine. And what we're really looking for is to get Again, that tool path to make contact with the body. Now, what I'm not seeing, and this could just be the regeneration of stock here. Let's go ahead and make sure we don't have to regenerate anything. But we should be touching that undercut area. Now, tolerance is cranked pretty good, so I don't think that is our problem. And we're going to go ahead and hit play here and see if we can't get it to force that tool path to come back up. We may have to increase our tolerance, as you could imagine. Another thing is we do have our leftover stock set so tiny. So let's go ahead and start with just adding maybe a 1 to our stock and see what we get calculated. Again, not the best of situations. I apologize, guys. I have been driving nonstop the last 24 hours. And, you know, when in doubt, go back to the beginning and let's see what we can come up with. So it looks like, I think somebody's pulling a prank on me. Did you, Stuart, rough this part out without stock to leave? Something is going on here. There is something really fishy. I now see some fishiness. This would be quite the dilemma, Stuart. Stuart, you have left me looking for Wizard of Oz because I now see our problem. So I'm gonna hate to be the one to tell you this, but as you machined through this side, you have pulled an old move that we do not recommend, which is when you go to your second setup from A to B, you exported a stock model and you brought a stock model back in. You have done more work than you need to do. Now, this is a scenario of a left hand, right hand. So I'm going to go ahead and jump up. Just let's see if you have the other one here. Yep. Okay. So here is your left hand. And then here is also your left hand. Okay. So this is the value of Fusion, taking training from yours truly or watching my videos. But as you guys can see, is I am going to go back and adjust. I'm actually not. We're not going to adjust. Yeah, we're going to have to adjust it. I'm going to go back and I'm going to reference the component. We're going to have to unprotect all of his toolpaths, and we're going to regenerate. Now, a lot of people don't understand when it comes to going into setup 2, and just so that we can see here, I'm just going to say this is setup 1 LH for left hand. And then we know this is now setup 2 for the left hand one. Is when I go back in here, had I used components and selected the same component twice, what you're going to see is I can actually use from preceding, and then I can check that box continuous rest machining. And then, as I always recommend you guys, click these 3 little dots, save as a user default, because you're never really going to uncheck it. But what should happen is we are having a problem with transferring the stock from the previous setup. So we're going to go ahead and verify a few things because I think I did not select that correctly. Let's go ahead and go back. Was this a problem you were also having on your end there, Stuart? Because we should be seeing material transfer from our first setup to our second setup. There's our XYZ. Here is our model. And I'm going to get your other setup out of the way by deleting it, because I think we're going to be in this dilemma, which I always hate, that I'm just going to duplicate your original setup, flip your Z, now use from preceding. And of course it's going to work because I'm now going to steal all of your tool paths and drag them over to my setup. And then from that, we should be able to verify, okay, here, left hand 2, that should be it. I think I drug the wrong tool paths in here. Oh, I didn't, I drug everything. That's right. Let's get your drilling and everything out of there now. So what I think has happened so far into this part is, one, you didn't have the continuous rest machining working, which caused you to use the STL export and import, right? So for some reason, it wouldn't carry over. I'm making educated guesses here pretty good today. But as we're seeing now, the reason why I say, guys, this was screwing us over is when we were doing our simulation. I think that's where we started running into our problems. Again, he does have undercutting from the other way. However, we have our roughing in place. We now have our steep and shallow tool path, which looks like it's tapering there. It also, if we actually look top down, again, this is a trick if you guys ever wondered. If those walls were perfectly vertical, we would see really good straight lines of this toolpath stack. But because we're tapering up here and we're undercutting over here, you'll notice my toolpath is tucking underneath that part. So again, let's see what we can get with our simulation. It's always fun. This is why you guys have to buy our support package at the end of the day, is because instead of you messing around with stuff, questioning why it may or may not work, you can use yours truly over here to spend some time and troubleshoot it. So again, we're going to go ahead and do a tail, and let's see if we can't wind it back and see if that fixed our problem. We'll give it a few seconds to load here. I'm not seeing the stock change. And I don't know millimeters off the top of my head, but let's just say we are working with 4/10 inch and see if that actually triggers what we need. Again, I'm not seeing the comparison happen. However, seems like there's some funkiness though on the bottom there. We might have to do a few more things. Now, one assumption I do have right now is just the fact that this is blue all the way around my part, which could lead me to believe that either the stock is not rendering or my tool is not getting close enough to my part, which again would lead me into the realm of what happens if I just did a standard 3D contour with something like a ball end mill. Again, the idea is we do have a lovely lollipop here. Let's get a toolpath on our part before we concern ourselves with a bunch of other things. And again, we're going to go ahead and go tool outside of part. Now, technically, this is what a good toolpath should look like for you guys paying attention at home. And again, what we're seeing, and this is actually a really good example down here at the end, we're undercutting into the part. Again, if I jump back up to my steep and shallow toolpath, it does look like we're undercutting here, which just makes me think something else out there is happening that we're not seeing. 0.1 millimeter tolerance, okay. So I'm going to do one more thing here. We're going to go ahead and grab that lollipop cutter and drag it up. And then I would like to simulate that to see what else we can have happen. Now, in the meantime, get this popped out. I see a ton of you guys in chat. You guys don't mind, go ahead and give us a like. Also, if you wouldn't mind giving us a subscribe at the end of the day, because we're getting pretty close to the 3K mark. And if you have questions and missed my spiel in the beginning, feel free to throw something in chat right now. So, Stuart, just to start with, as you can see, is I've now replicated this with your lollipop cutter. Yes, we're not going down far enough, but we are seeing that the simulation is working here. That, again, if I was to work on something like this, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into a contour again, swap back to your T-slot cutter, and we're going to see if that is going to work this time around. And let's drag it back up so that we can see a clean simulation. Again, we're going to go back up one more step further, let the stock calculate out. Now, I am seeing the lines on the material at the end of the day. So let's go ahead and simulate it one more time. And maybe you just got the luck of the draw that every single thing that you did was somehow causing a problem. But we're going to see here in a minute. Again, I don't know what you guys do out there at the end of the day, but what I'm seeing right now is that it is working, which this is now where, Stuart, we get to play the game of what could be causing that problem. Well, looking back at your tool path here, I'm going to use my steep and shallow for an example. And what it looks like is the path that the tool is following is quite a bit different for some reason. Now that would really make me curious as to why that is. So let's do this. We're going to go ahead and take this tool path one more time, and we are going to duplicate it. What am I thinking? I'm thinking wrong. I want to take the steep and shallow, and I want to convert that into contour because that's still using some of his original settings. We're going to bring that back up to the top here real quick. Yep. So we are getting completely different results. If you look at these two tool paths from what I created and what he created, now I'm going to check it here. There is an old issue part that's longer. So that could answer some of our questions at the end of the day. That as you're seeing, if I do a compare and edit, I can come down here and I can see what's different. Now, we do have a little bit of additional offset, not the biggest of deals. We're using model bottom versus selection. That shouldn't affect anything. Again, tool outside versus tool center. I don't think that's going to make a very big difference. I think you're correct in thinking that when you, this is going to irritate me now because I think I know, when I duplicated that, yes, I know. Okay, we're chasing our tails here. We're chasing our tails hard. So when you selected another body, it's a longer version of this part, right, Stuart? And with that longer version, which one is it that you want? Because you're trying to add a body in and force a toolpath here versus selecting the right model in your setup. So as you're seeing is when you said select model, you've added the additional model here, which is floating way up here at the top, versus adding it when you did your initial setup. So actually it's funny because if I turned off model right now, again, there's my recalculation. I am getting that error. So we're going to have to evaluate why you're now getting that error. But as you're going to see, I'm more than certain we're going to get the same results. So again, we got tool center. Let's go tool outside boundary, see if that fixes it for us. But at this point, I don't want to spend a ton more time on it. But I think if this is just me, Stuart, a couple of your problems. One is when you did your first setup, making sure you're selecting the same item. Now, this is why the component side is super handy. And then when you get into your setup too, your stock is automatically going to carry over, again, because both setups are referencing the same model. Now, I say model, not body, model as in component. And then from there, I don't know what has happened with you adding the other body in there, unless you were trying to make a longer version. Were you trying to make a longer version? Let us know in chat. But I think that's causing basically the demise of everything else from here on out. So again, is what I'm doing now is I'm just going to go ahead and delete everything out of my way. We're going to go ahead and one more time, we're going to throw a contour at this. We're going to grab that lovely T-slot cutter. And we're going to see what we get. Again, no linked pass. Now, I do know at one time there was kind of a funky bug here. So we're going to go tool outside. And just like that, I've gotten actually a clean tool path right off the rip, which would lead me to believe you were asking about using ramp initially. So let's go back, see if we can do ramp and see if ramp is going to go ahead and give us undercutting as well. And it does. 3D ramp does allow for undercutting. So you want the shorter version, not the longer version, correct? In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and pop open this other file while we wait for that to come through. And here is a lovely valve-looking part. Now, I believe what the question was is they are utilizing what would be considered like a dovetail tool, and they are trying to cut this undercut. So again, if you're still out there in chat, the guy that sent in 811, feel free to let me know in here. Okay, so you did want the shorter version. So yeah, so what is actually hurting you right now is, Stuart, there is no reason to turn on model on your toolpath. Again, model is always there to reference in addition to. So I don't know if you've been turning it on. I see a lot of people have the need to turn on model. But let's say, for example, I wanted to go ahead and add a patch to the top of my part, right? So that would be a great time when you're in the design workspace. You add your surface patch to the top. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and grab that one. We're going to do both of them because I'm not going to waste a ton of time trying to figure out which one's which, right? But now when I'm in the manufacturer workspace, is in the event, I think we did this with a lollipop cutter at one point. So let's go ahead and get that back up here so that we can see that awesome dipping into our part that we saw the first time through. Again, we got to go ahead and adjust a few things here. Tool center, tool outside. I think that's all we needed. Again, we're plunging in the middle right now, right? So as you guys can see, we're dipping down inside that hole. If I didn't want to dip down inside that hole by using my patch, this is where I would then go in and I would say, I want to add additional models, right? Now, even though it's a surface, still considered a model. And if I pick that guy and hit OK a second time, you're going to notice now my tool doesn't plunge back in there. So give me a sec, guys. I'm going to jump back over to my other screen. What time is it? We got to make sure. Okay, we got about 10 minutes left before we jump to the Too Tall Toby. It looks like we are going to use a dovetail cutter. Is undercut, as you can see on the model, we have a tool custom made for it, but I don't know how to plunge into the part without cutting into it. So let's go ahead and go back here. Looking at this part here, I don't know, are you still out in chat? If you're still out in chat, feel free to throw something in there so I know you're there. In the meantime, I should probably check the ticket system, make sure nobody else is throwing any tickets at us. So again, we're going to give this a few more seconds. Let me jump back over here. I do not see them in chat, so who knows? Presumably, it's hard to say without having toolpaths on the part, but we're going to see if they do have any toolpaths before we dive too far into this. It looks like we're loading some cam data as we switch workspaces, and it looks like we got a bunch of red, which is always fun, right? Looks like we are trying to run a bunch of these, which is quite interesting. What do we have? One or more items have errors. This is going to get good fast, but let's see what we have in our tool library. Again, what we are looking for is like a dovetail tool for undercutting. Thread mills. All right, tool 5. So let's get back here. You guys find it before I do. Where is tool 5 in the list? I guess the smart thing would have been is to make sure that tool 5 is on a toolpath. You guys are seeing all my cool tricks. So again, here's tool 5. It is utilized with steep and shallow toolpaths, which I assume is probably why you're getting errors. Again, let's scroll down a little bit further, make sure there's no other dovetail cutter in here. So steep and shallow, tool 5. So it looks like definitely got something there, but the problem is, as it was announced, is that the toolpath itself, and this is going to be tricky because again, we have quite the thing with the setups all over the place, but that is leading in on center and then undercutting whatever that feature is. So again, I'm going to do my best here, guys. Let's go ahead and see if we can't get a body turned on. Hopefully one of these is it. When in doubt, just turn them all on, right? Bam. And we're going to go ahead and do the old F6 to get everything back in place. Somehow we have not turned on what I'm assuming is the body to be manufactured. Maybe we did. We did not. So what do we have going on here that we have all kinds of craziness? You guys really just know how to get me going, don't you? All right. Close chain. That's all right. We're going to go back over here. See if we can't force this guy to come back. Really questioning what's going on here. So we're going to hit X. Surface groups. We don't need model. Let's see here. No model selected. Well, I guess we'll just go with what I'm hoping. This guy right here. What do you guys do this to me? You guys get a kick out of this? Deep thinker. All right, we're still getting errors here. Toolpath calculation failed. Yeah, this is going to be tricky. I'm going to have to tell you guys, this one's going to be a wash due to time. I'm going to need a true toolpath that is possibly working off the right rip, as well as more information. To me, other than it's over here in the middle of nowhere, the question was about undercutting those areas. This looks as if it's doing it. I guess I would need more information to really know what's happening there. Quick chamfer, all same size holes, or do you have to pick one at a time? Sure thing. So if you are you talking about spot drilling said holes, or you just want to chamfer them there, deep thinker? How much time we got? Clock is on. 4 minutes, baby. And then we're jumping to the Too Tall Toby finals. You just go ahead and check, make sure we don't have anything else in there. Yep, nothing else in chat right now. Give you a few seconds there, Deep Thinker. Are you referring to all these holes up here, or are you referring to all of the actual, what I would assume are ports that are looking for gaskets? Going once, going twice. In the meantime, though, you know what I should do? I should tell you guys, of course, feel free to support this channel. You guys know how we do it over here. You can do everything from like, subscribe, share our content with your grandma so that she can, of course, get really good at Fusion 360. But you can also buy us a beer, buy us a steak, or buy us some lobster if you learned something new or found something interesting in this program. I'm going to go ahead and jump back over. I see Deep Thinker out here sending some stuff, so let's get back to it. So what's Too Tall Toby? Stuart, Too Tall Toby does CAD versus CAD. You should go check it out. Somebody out there can throw the link to his stream in chat. I'm finishing a turned part in a mill and just adding holes that need chamfers, but then not all the hole faces. Little crazy. I'm trying to pick up on what you're putting down here. So, Nepster, I see you out there, man. If I get that you probably chopped this down or something, I don't want to, although, yes, I could undo what you've done here. Again, for reasons of not sharing your files, I would highly recommend that if you can get your toolpaths on just this block and resend it, I'll take a look at it. Again, so Deep Thinker, we got Stuart out there with $10 in chat. So from that is, let's see here, turned part in a mill, just adding holes. I need to chamfer them, but not the whole face. Okay, so if you are trying to chamfer the top side of holes, I'm going to show you guys a couple of ways here before we jump out of here. So I'm going to do a drilling procedure. I'm going to go ahead and grab my chamfer tool. Now it looks like we have a 6mm. Let's go ahead and step that up. We got a 12mm here. I apologize for you guys out there that measure in bald eagles like I do. But when you go in and you pick your hole geometry, for example, this is going to get fun because it looks like I'm not going to be able to pick my hole geometry, which lead me to believe that our part is actually, our holes are not square. I had this problem earlier today too, so give me a sec here. Let's just go ahead. I'm going to use tool orientation to get what I need out of this thing. So there we go. It looks like, yes, that part is not actually flat to the world, which means I cannot pick a hole face, which is also telling me I can't pick a hole face, which is kind of funny. Did I not grab? I did grab a chamfer tool. It's just one of them days, right? Why? Oh, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I had this happen to me earlier this week too, and I just can't remember. We're gonna do what I really like to do, is we're just gonna go ahead and ditch everything because this seems to be kind of cropped together. Let's start with the basics, right? Z, there we go. No, model, there we go. And let's do our drilling now. So again, we're gonna go in, we're gonna pick our drilling tool, that 12mm 45. I'm gonna go ahead and define my hole. Now, by default, if you just pick your hole and hit OK, you're gonna notice it's gonna do a normal drilling cycle all the way to the bottom. So again, if I don't have a modeled chamfer, what I can do is I can go over to my heights tab, and I could say instead of going to hole bottom, we could actually go to a chamfer width. And what this is going to allow you to do is to add a chamfer to the hole. Now, I probably want to get my math right here. So I'm going to go 20 thou chamfer, and you're going to notice it's automatically going to bust that edge for me. Now, if I add additional holes to this, what is nice about that is it will add that 20 thou if the tool's big enough. Bear with me here, guys. But as you can see, we got 20 thou on this hole, 20 thou on that hole. Again, if we had a bigger spot drill, we could also do it that way as well. So again, Deep Thinker, it's a 2-inch hole, and I can't just do a center drill. Cool, awesome. So if you can't just do a center drill operation, if you simply just go down to 2D chamfer, now the edge you're going to pick is just around whatever that edge is. And then from there, we could go ahead and jump over and set our chamfer width. So again, I'm going to use 20 thou inch. Again, this tool does not have any speeds and feeds for that. So we're going to go ahead and say no to ignoring that warning because I would assume This might have been pulled from the default library, which means there is speeds and feeds for lead in and lead out and cutting. And just like that, I'm now machining a 20 thou chamfer on my part. So again, deep thinker, if your hole has a solid edge on it, no model chamfer, just go ahead and use the chamfer toolpath. If you have something more like this hole doesn't have a model chamfer, but in the event, we're going to throw this on here real quick for you guys. So again, I've now modeled a 0.02 chamfer on my part. So again, if I went back to manufacturer, you can use 2D contour for this, is what I usually recommend. The edges I'm going to select are going to be that lower rail. So I'm holding my Alt key when I picked it. My chamfer is going to be set to 0. And now I'm going to give that a little bit of a offset so that the tool sits down and away. And again, that's a model chamfer. So as you're going to say, so do you have to pick one at a time? So deep thinker, technically not. And the reason I say that is because if I would back this up real quick, in your contour selection area, instead of using the edge selection tool, what I could do is I could actually do pocket recognition. And then from there, you could set your dimensions based on your part. So I'm going to go 0 to 25. We're going to go ahead and use our setup body, and we're going to hit OK. We're actually going to include holes here. And as you're seeing is it's now picking those edges automatically on my part. So again, you have that ability to go through and fast recognize whatever it is that you're doing. Again, this is just a little bit of a different way to do it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, guys. So bear with me on it. Again, we're seeing minimum. It looks like it's not picking up on the holes though. And that's probably because they are not flat bottom. Now it does look like that guy is there. Let's go ahead and use our OK key to see what we get for a toolpath. And as you're seeing, we're not. Yep, so it is try setting. Yep. So again, this is one of those things that when it comes to chamfering, no. But deep thinker, you, sir, have deburr. Why not use deburr with the ball end mill? That would be my question to you. So again, you could go in and say deburr. And again, there's automatic deburring. Now you could stay with the chamfer tool too, because I believe it is going to automatically chamfer anything and everything here as you're seeing. So that's a 90-degree chamfer tool in the deburr toolpath, automatically recognized everything on my part. And just like that, we could keep going. So guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. I don't see any other questions in there. Like I said, feel free to like, subscribe, follow. Stuart, once again, thanks for the 10 euros, I guess. I will probably see you guys next Friday. Now, it's going to be magical because I think I'm going to cook it out of Florida starting Wednesday night, make it back to North Dakota before Friday at lunch, where I get to see you guys all here again. Outer edges are already done. That's all right. Let me go ahead and do this real quick. Deep thinker, don't worry if the outer edges are already done. You still have the traditional approach inside of Fusion. You could utilize a machine boundary, and then you could say only do everything, of course, inside that boundary and everything else. You could also exclude edges as well if you wanted to. So just keep that in mind. Again, you could just say additional offset minus 0.1, and we should be able to bring that tool in and now not touch the outside of our part. So just like that, once again, another way to approach that. But guys, we got to get going to the Too Tall Toby channel. It's been great. You guys know it's not what you know, it's who you know. You all know yours truly over here at JitCAD Cam. You guys like this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. Outside of that, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you felt that you learned something today, like Nepster as well as Stuart, Nepster, appreciate the donation. But with that, you can go ahead and buy us beers, steaks, lobsters, super chats, any and all of the above. Thanks, guys. See you next week.